Hey, I'm Warren Sprouse. You're on the Bible Forum. It's October 1st, 2017. We're here together. We're looking at events that have unfurled in the last week or so. This kneeling protest in the NFL. Now, we're being led to believe that it was about black people who were not being given a fair shot in this racist country. It was started by a fellow named Colin Kaepernick. He's a black quarterback. He was raised by a white family. He attended a good college. He was the starting quarterback for a professional football franchise, making millions of dollars. A man who was relegated to backup quarterback when someone better came along. A man who then wanted to be traded to a New York or at least an East Coast team so he could be near his fiancée, who is a Muslim. A man who's been unable to pursue that dream. NFL teams unwilling to give him a chance. NFL teams who don't want the drama. A man who then started kneeling when the national anthem was played. And his stated reason is America is not fair to black minorities. 79% of the NFL is black. Kaepernick's official statement says, quote, to protest police treatment of minorities, end of quote. 93% of black homicides are black on black. Today, the demonstration seemed to have caught on. NFL fans and Americans of all sorts don't like it. Now we're being told it's no longer about the national anthem, but what about the demonstration? It occurs during the playing of the national anthem. That time when we stop to remember our great nation, to pay honor to all who have gone before, all who have worn the uniform or not, all who brought us to where we are today at great cost. That song we identify with our country's heritage and our fallen soldiers, our country's charter and culture. Can you listen to the national anthem and not think about these things? Can you listen to it in solitude and not well up in your soul? No nation on the face of this earth, no nation is in all of recorded history has done what the United States of America has done to make the world a better, safer place. No nation in history has ever provided her citizens the benefits, the advantages, the lifestyle that the US of A has given. No nation gives black people more opportunity, more wealth, more room to fail than does America. Did I tell you Kaepernick's a millionaire? And no group of people appear more ungrateful. I say appear because it's not universally true in the black community, but there's enough. Or is it all about something else? The liberal, now progressive Democrat Party is almost solely responsible for the devastation that was the American slave states, that was the Jim Crow South, that was the KKK, that was the tormentors of Martin Luther King's followers during the 1960s. That same political party now stands together with the wealthy black legislators and mayors to shake their finger at the rest of us for not doing enough to bring these people up and out of poverty, not doing enough to give them respect and worth. At the same time, many of the most outspoken black members of Congress are among the wealthiest, with net worths in the millions of dollars. The Sheila Jackson Lees, the Maxine Waters, the Elijah Cummings, the Eleanor Holmes Norton, the Charlie Rangels, to mention just some. In 2015, the average NFL player made $2.1 million. The median salary is $860,000 a year. Did I mention that 70% of NFL players are black? When the NFL became engulfed in the demonstration, fans and advertisers stood up and began backing away wholesale. So now the purpose of the demonstration is being restated. It's not about the flag. It's not about the men and women who serve. It's not about the millions who have died to make us free. It's simply about the institutional racism and official persecution being codified in our society as the police and the court system routinely discriminate against people of color. So why football games? Why the national anthem? Well, the answer is to get maximum emotional effect. And it worked. More people watch American football than any other sport. In 2001, a Gallup poll conducted finds that professional football has more fans than any other sport in America, 63%. Baseball has 56%. And there's a lot of money at stake. Some of it players' salaries, but far more than that. In the long run, if the advertisers back off and the fans stop coming, those salaries are going to go down. These men are shooting themselves in the proverbial foot. The participants and the media are starting to walk this thing back, saying the issue was never about the national anthem, it's about institutionalized racism, especially among law enforcement. Well, is that true? Statistically, no. It appears true because the media hypes the small percentage of breaches in that system. A clean, by-the-book arrest is not newsworthy. Nobody wants to watch it on television. A body camera video seeming to show an officer shooting an unarmed man for no reason, that's good TV. You'll watch that for 2 weeks. Did you know that you have no idea the police procedure in the case of a motor vehicle stop when the suspect has a gun or a gun is clearly present or it appears he's going for a gun? Do you know what police procedure is? Well, we know here in North Charleston, South Carolina, because we saw the video. And it shows a police officer shooting and killing a man as he ran away from the car. That police officer's in jail. That's a clear-cut violation of anything sane. In a more recent case, the video shows a police officer shooting a man who's sitting in his car, all the while yelling at him to not touch that gun. The officer in this scenario shoots and kills the driver, firing his weapon several times. And the law let him off. Because he's white? Because the victim was black? Or because the legal policy required that officer to shoot? You don't know. They're trained. They know. The crime in our cities is not black on white or white on black. It's not a black-white issue, meaning the color of a person's skin is not what's going on. It's a moral issue. When an entire ethnic group abandons the very institutions that protect that group and ensure its survival, the destruction of that group is not my fault. Generations without a father in the home, generations without a decent education, generations where alcohol and or drugs are the norm, generations where sex is a form of exercise and children are born to women without husbands or fathers. And it used to be that grandma raised those children, but today grandma was doing the same thing in her day. She has no better value system than her grandchild has, no better living arrangement than her grandchild has, no better wealth. When you destroy a culture, the children are the first to pay. Then the young adults, and finally the entire group. This is when people start blaming those who seem to have. Ever wonder how it is so many young adults can jam the streets for days in protest? Don't they have anything else to do? And the answer is no. That is their entertainment. That is their sole purpose in life. They have nothing else of value. Our leaders are helping these spoilers tear down our society brick by brick, little by little, here a little, there a little. They're doing it with recreational sex, abortion on demand, destruction of the marriage institution, destruction of the family structure, destruction of our educational system. Did you know sexually transmitted diseases that were almost under control are now back? Old-fashioned morality, old-fashioned chastity, old-fashioned family structures are gone. The black community is merely the first to experience it. Fox News has more than 200 reports more than 200 NFL players made some form of gesture at games a week ago Sunday. Many kneeling or sitting on the bench. And their reason? Tweets by President Trump, who called on team owners to fire players who followed former San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick's lead in kneeling during the national anthem. It's all the president's fault. Participants and owners alike are citing the First Amendment to the Constitution in support of the players' right to free speech. Try this kind of free speech at your place of employment tomorrow morning. Point out to your company's customers how wrong, how racist, how stupid they are, and see how long you stay employed. Free speech stops at your employer's front door. The point being, you don't have to work here. Now skip ahead to the facts. You remember the facts, right? The pesky little things that make or break your considered opinions. Black professional football players are seeking to highlight the injustice in America that unfairly targets people of color, especially police officers. However, black Americans commit violent crimes 7 to 10 times the rate of white Americans. Black Americans are responsible for 76% of all homicides. Black Americans are responsible for 78% of all juvenile arrests, 62% of all robberies, 57% of all murders, and 45% of all assaults. And that's my fault. In the 75 largest counties in America where the majority of crimes are committed, white people represent 15% of the population. In 2009, black citizens were responsible for 62% of the robberies, 52% of the murders, 45% of all assaults in those counties. Chicago is now the reigning illustration. In a city where blacks represent 28% of the population, they are responsible for 76% of all homicides, 78% of all juvenile arrests. Black citizens of Chicago commit violent crimes 7 to 10 times the rate of white citizens. In Chicago, the murder rate is 3 times that of the rest of America. Robbery rate is 3 times the national. Assaults, twice as likely. Rapes, 1.5 times more likely. The NFL players are seeking to highlight the disparities between black and white citizens in America. More black people are victims of police violence. More black people are denied jobs. More black people are killed by police, ostensibly for no reason other than they were black. Driving while black is the phrase used to disparage police officers. Did you know police shoot and kill more pit bulls than Boston Terriers? Is that because they hate the pit bulls? Are pit bulls potentially more dangerous than Boston Terriers? Which breed would you like to confront in a supercharged aggressive circumstance? Now let me just say a word in support of pit bulls. They largely get a bum rap. Pit bulls are large, strong, and aggressive animals. They are fiercely loyal to their owners. They are easily stimulated to action when they feel threatened. And they are very, very strong. But they are gentle with babies in what they consider their care. Yes, they are proprietary. And they love to play. In a debate with emotionally charged people, facts are not as important as emotion. The NFL player's argument would never stand up in court. This is why they resort to emotional manipulation and blackmail. Why do black people feel as though they're being disparaged or held back? They'll say because they're black. But the facts say because they're not as prepared. Prior to 1960, most black children were raised in two-parent families. Today, 72% are born out of wedlock, meaning there's no father around. And the man who is around probably isn't their father. The result? A social structure completely out of balance and out of control. Young males with no effective instruction nor control where their natural desires or dominance is concerned, largely because there was no bull in that herd that said, sit down, shut up. Mama can't make 16-year-old Junior do anything he don't want to do. Dad can. Young females with no practical illustration as to what a man really is or how they are to relate to him. Out of this social chaos has come a culture that is socially, economically, and spiritually warped. Into this social chaos has come a liberal socialist political party willing to pay people not to work. Willing to pay people not to get an education, not to obey the rules, not to look to themselves for self-respect. When everything is free, then nothing has real value. Money for babies means we're just going to get more of them. Money for doing nothing means more people will do nothing. Survival of the fittest within a subculture means that sooner or later that mentality will spill out into the larger culture. It's all some people know. And when that happens, our protection is only the police and the court system. The effort now is to eliminate those barriers to pure anarchism, by constantly pointing at them when a black man is arrested, injured, or killed. Never mind what he or she was doing. Never mind how dangerous that situation was or appeared to be. The fact is, a white police officer shot and killed a black man. That's it. Now, there are situations where police officers react completely out of context, but we usually end up arresting them and trying them in open court and putting them in prison. There are situations where it looks far different to that little camera shot you saw than it really was, or that standard operating procedures require officers to act the way they do. We're all armchair quarterbacks when it comes to that. Police departments have invited black leaders to participate in exercises they call shoot, don't shoot. Black men are given a gun, it's a fake gun, and told to act as a police officer, seeking to arrest a man who is clearly aggressive, a man who is unarmed. And the results are always the same. The black man shoots and kills the aggressor. The last one I saw was a black pastor. These men are shocked that they reacted that way. They admit going in, they knew it was a game, it wasn't real. But they clearly felt threatened in a very major way. And they had the gun in hand and they shot before the man could reach them. The man was unarmed, had nothing in his hand. He's a big guy. And all he was doing was walking toward the man with the gun and wouldn't stop. Now keep in mind, this is broad daylight and cameras are running. It's clearly not real. We call people who are outside the circumstances and yet have strong opinions, We call them armchair experts. The NFL player who started all this is a black man who was raised by a white family, raised in circumstances far removed from poverty, given the opportunity of a college education, given a job that paid him millions of dollars, but a man who lost his job, a man who's having trouble finding another job. In a reasonable world, his motives would be seriously questioned, not defended, and certainly not mimicked. But in 2017, it's not reason that rules, it's emotion. Consider the comments of NFL legend Burgess Owens. Burgess Owens, from another generation, a black football player. Owens alleged the protesting NFL players had been tricked by a political strategy, a strategy organized by Democrats that only creates more misery for black people. He went on to quote the statistics. 83% of black teen males are not working. 77% of black men are abandoning their families. He says, go through the litany of failure, and it's all because of the Democrat socialist agenda to make sure that misery is used as political strategy. He continued by saying, let me tell you what the flag represents and what our country represents. It's a place of hope, a place of second chances. And we have these young men that are literally millionaires with billions of dollars represented on that sideline, and they have no clue that we, the people, they are the solution, because they've been brought up in this socialist, liberal, Marxist environment in which they're not given hope. The Democrat Party has failed the black community for decades. He says, I'm sick and tired of being portrayed as a hapless race, that white people did all these things to us because we don't know our history. So let's man up, learn our history, find out not only did we give a lot to this country, but we got a lot from this country. We're the freest country in the history of mankind. And Colin Kaepernick, his foundation just gave $25,000 to an organization called Assata's Daughters. This is a radical, racist organization that describes themselves as, quote, a Chicago direct action resistance organization honoring Assata Shakur. Who is Assata Shakur? Well, you're probably not old enough to remember. But her given name is Joanne Chesimard. Joanne Chesimard is a black woman found guilty of murdering a state police officer in New Jersey by the name of Warner Forster. She was placed in prison for life. She's now living in Cuba. Her friends came in and managed to help her escape. In a woman's prison, wasn't as secure as it should have been, and she's now a fugitive in Cuba. He's hoping another team will pick him up. Let's hope that this world is smarter than that.